After knowing these 7 most important chess strategies, you will become for sure a strategical chess better player. So you cannot talk about strategy in chess without talking about centralization. Centralization is the most important strategy in chess, in the opening, in the middle game, also in the end game. So here in this position, as you can notice, white is centralizing every single piece, the bishops, the knight, the queen, the 2 rooks actually. Always, if you are not sure, if you are not having something concrete in your mind, put your pieces around the center or controlling the center from near or far. For example, the queen from b1 can control the center well. So here in this position, I don't want you to give you the best move, but I want to give you a couple of bad moves. For example, here, many chess players will go like knight h2. This is a bad move. Why? Because you are playing away with the center. For example, another move is knight e2. This is another bad move. Why? Because you are giving your opponent a free control on the e4 square. Probably the next best move is going to be knight c3 back. So whenever you play around the center. So here, one of options that I think of, either I go knight e5 exchanging pieces, if that's good for me. If not, then I go bishop h2. I keep my pieces around the center as they are ideally placed. I just like overprotect them, or say prophylactic move against ideas like knight h5. So first one is centralization. Second one, trade your flank pawns for the central pawns. This is very important, and this is actually especially in the middle game. In the end game, sometimes exchanging towards the flank pawns is better. Flank pawns normally like FGH sometimes, or GH alone, AB alone, but the idea is to take towards the center, yeah? CD, FE. So here in this position, this is actually a better move. Why? Because it helps the control of the E4, and maybe later on E4 controlling the D5 square. Why the center is that important? Because controlling the center will give power for your pieces to maneuver from right to left and from left to right. And the most important thing, it will deprive your opponent of this maneuver. Yeah, your opponent's pieces are kind of lack movement. Yeah, it cannot. The pieces of your opponent cannot move from here to there or from there to here. Yeah, from the king side to the queen side or vice versa. So this is strategy number 2. Strategy number 3, which is super important, and many like amateur players doing, creating pawn weaknesses. What is a pawn weakness, by the way? A pawn weakness is putting your pawns in a way that another pawn cannot protect it. For example, say here in this position, white took bishop takes c6. There is b takes c6 and there is rook takes c6. B takes c6 actually is a bad move unless you can go c5 next move, but maybe b4 is coming. And after b takes c6, now this pawn lost the ability to be protected by another pawn. While if you go rook takes c6, then your pawns are protected. If your opponent wasted time to attack b7, then you do have the option to push the pawn, so protected by another one. So this is very, very important and very, very common in amateur chess. Number 4, avoid, this is actually super important one. Avoid creating weak square in your position. What is a weak square? A weak square is similar to a weak pawn. A square that cannot protect it by a pawn, especially in your, let's take black here, in our 6th and 5th rank. Or if you look at it from another way, 3rd and 4th rank, yeah? So whenever we start the game of chess, every single square along these 2 ranks can be protected by pawns. Avoid as much as possible to do that. And here is a golden rule, or a golden hint to apply this rule. If you push your G pawn, try not to push your E pawn. If you push your E pawn, try not to push your C pawn. Why is that? Because if you push your C pawn, don't push your A pawn. Whenever you push like AC, then there's a problem. CE, there's a problem. EG, there's a problem. Wait. I need to explain. Yeah, I will explain that. So if I go e6 now, this is a bad move. Why? Because all of a sudden, two weak squares appeared. Like this square lost the ability to be controlled or protected by a pawn, and f6 square as well. Whoa, that's huge. Guys, most of my viewers are not subscribers. So please do consider to subscribe so you get the useful, very important chess content, yeah? I hope. So avoid that. And for example, you already pushed the c pawn, yeah? Don't go a6 because now you're creating the b pawn weakness. And the same goes if you push your pawns twice. For example, if you push like after g5, for example, okay, let me do this. Yeah? Let me do this. Now e5 is a very bad move. Why? Because you lost the control of 4 squares now. What are the 4 squares? f6, f5, d6, f5. Not only 2. Guys, at the end of the day, you will create weaknesses. No chess player is able not to create weaknesses because you need to push your pawns, yeah? But try as much as possible not to push these guys together, yeah? If you push g6, avoid e6. If you push h6, avoid f6. If you push the f pawn, avoid moving the d. If you move the d, don't move the b. I hope you got the pattern, yeah? Strategy number 5. Always blockade your opponent's isolated pawn with a knight. So here's first of all, what is a passed pawn or isolated? Say a passed, probably for the passed pawn, even the isolated as well. A passed pawn is a pawn of your opponent that cross the 4th rank or the 5th rank if you're white and cannot be stopped by pawns. For example, if my pawn is on f2, this is not a passer. If my pawn on d2, then it's not a passer because it can be stopped by these two pawns, yeah? But you cannot control the game of chess. So sometimes passers are coming and passed pawns must be blocked. This is very important because all of a sudden you might lose because of this move e3, yeah? Because that will unleash the power of this bishop, maybe give the knight the square, etc. So that's why, how to block. If you block it with the rook, then your rook here is kind of passive. Why they said the knight is the best blockader? Because if you go knight e3, now the knight actually is doing the blockade not on the expense of another characteristics of the knight. The knight here still powerful, still doing the same as if it's not blockading the pawn. Because I am attacking here and there and there and here. I'm jumping over the pieces, which I means the pawns around the knight, and the knight has its 100% power, you know. While if we put a bishop here, then the bishop cannot play on this diagonal. If we put a rook here, then the rook cannot control these squares, yeah. This is super important. Number 6, occupy open files with your rooks. This is actually kind of clear, so I wanted to take it to another level, which is say, okay, I occupy it with the rook and my opponent do the same. It's why to play. And now I will show you a very interesting idea, which is rook c2. Super nice move. The point of rook c2, if you take, then thanks for the only open file. Next rook c1, and I am the owner of that file. If you do nothing, I am going to double. What a nice idea. If rook c5 now, trying to do the same? No. First of all, I can take in the rook c1 or I can go b4. Anyways, that's number 6. Number 7th and the last one, keep the bishop pair. And that's interesting actually because this game is taken from the Title Tuesday I was watching a few hours ago. And here it's a game for Nakamura. And Nakamura here in this position. His opponent played bishop f6, trying to exchange pieces or to get rid of the bishop pair. No, keep the bishop pair. This is actually a strategical advantage for you. Bishop e1. And after bishop e1, the bishop pair is kept. And during the game, actually this bishop maybe stayed here forever, right? I mean, yeah, this bishop stayed here forever. And the game is won by this bishop being here. But just saving the bishop pair. So these are 7 of the most important chess strategies ever. I hope you got them. I hope you got a very nice idea. And if you are looking to improve your chess, recently I've created another episode Another video talked about 14 most important tactical ideas. You will find the video on your left. By the way, this topic is taken from the website, the Word Chess or the Chess Word. So, but I have added some more example of my experience and my life. Thanks for watching. See you soon.